Hello, this is Phalaenopsis, the moth orchid. You probably recognise it. It's a very common plant in the UK and they're readily available in the shops and they're not very expensive. And there is a certain amount of mystique around these plants, but they are actually quite easy to keep if you follow one or two simple bits of advice. Look at these beautiful blooms, aren't they incredible? And they can stay on the plant for up to 4 months. And those blooms over there are actually cut flowers and they've been in that vase for 8 weeks and they're still going strong. Now, in this video, I want to talk to you about 5 common mistakes that it's easy to make with this plant and how to avoid those. And if you follow the advice in this video, you should find it relatively easy to look after the Phalaenopsis, the moth orchid. Now, the first thing to be very wary about is watering. Now, to understand watering for this plant, it's important to understand where it lives. And it lives up in the air, in the trees, in the canopy of the jungle, where it has exposed roots. So, normally that plant would have a horizontal habit, not a vertical habit. So when it comes to watering, you have to remember that these plants are never planted in the ground and these roots are never actually in dense soil or compost. That's why they're sold in these transparent pots, because as you can see there, this has got green roots and those green roots are actually used to help with photosynthesis. The roots actually photosynthesize, so they should never be overwatered because they are a part of the plant which is usually in the air. So one way to make sure that you're not overwatering this, well, there's several ways and I'm going to give you 4 ideas now. The first one is check the pot to see if there's any condensation, and I can clearly see condensation there, which means that this plant does not need watering. Here we can see a green root. That green root is hydrated and it is photosynthesizing, so therefore it does not need watering. The other thing you can do is just check the soil with your thumb, and if it feels moist, it doesn't need watering. And finally, the 4th idea really is to check the leaves. If they're not wilting, it does not need watering. The first sign in the roots that the plant might need watering is the roots tend to go a kind of silvery white colour and then they shrivel up, which is what happened here. You can see on this exposed root there, it's gone white and silvery and then it's shriveled up. If you start getting that kind of effect under the ground here, you need to start thinking about watering it. But this does not need watering. So let's talk about watering this plant. Now you buy these in 2 ways. You'll either buy them in a bark kind of soil like that, very open and airy, or even moss. Now if they're in that kind of soil or medium bark, you can plunge them in water and let them soak for 10 minutes or up to an hour, and then take them out and let them completely drain off. You'll notice underneath these pots there's lots of holes for drainage. All the water has to leave the pot. It must not be allowed to sit in water. If it's in moss, you can actually water from the top and through the top, because moss is more moisture retentive and absorbent. So you can soak them and plunge them if they're in wood chip, but let water go through the top if they're in moss. Now, the other thing is remembering that this has a horizontal habit. When it comes to watering, if you do get some water trapped in the top here, in the crown, it's important to take it away. Perhaps use a little bit of tissue or kitchen roll and just soak that up. So there we are. The first mistake people often make is over-watering. Don't overwater them. Look for the signs. Let them almost dry out between watering. Now, another mistake that you can make with this pot is when it comes to repotting. The first thing to say about repotting is it doesn't need repotting very often. It's got the kind of roots that can take nutrients from the air, and this actually grows up in the tree canopy and it lodges itself into the tree bark. That's what those roots are for, and those roots will hang out into the air and absorb moisture from the air. So you should only really think about repotting it when this bark has decomposed so much that it's become a dense compacted compost at the bottom. If it remains airy and open, you don't need to repot it. When you do come to repot it, people make the mistake of repotting that into standard compost. You don't put these in standard potting compost. You repot them in these into bark, and this is a typical orchid bark which you can buy off Amazon. I'll put the link to this one in the description box below this video. And that bark is incredibly open, and you can see they're not going to be taking much nutrients from that, and that allows the roots to go through it and get access to air and oxygen and light. That's another reason why they're in these plastic pots, to get light in. So the mistake to make is potting it into compost when you should be using bark, and repotting it too soon. It doesn't need repotting until all this has decomposed and become compacted in the bottom. So another mistake you can make with these is putting them into the wrong pot. And I'm labouring the point, but you can see here very clearly that these are in clear plastic pots. That's how they've been supplied, that's how they've been purchased. Both of them are in clear plastic pots. And there's a temptation to look at those pots and think, oh, they're a bit cheap and nasty. Let's put them into a lovely opaque pot like this. The problem with that is the light does not get to the roots. The light needs to get to the roots. So there's a mistake that you should avoid. You should keep them in transparent plastic pots, and you can buy them. You can buy special orchid pots off Amazon. I'll put the link to a few in the description box below this video. But in reality, you're probably not going to go up too many sizes when you're repotting them, because you can put them back into the same size, just replenish the compost with this. But if you do decide to go bigger or put 2 or 3 in one pot, you can buy the pots off Amazon, and there'll be a link below this video. So do remember to leave some of these roots exposed to light so that they can photosynthesize. Now, the fourth mistake that people often make with these is thinking that they like to live in direct sunlight, and they don't. They like bright light. They like to be in light, airy conditions like they would be at the top of the tree canopy. But they don't want to be in direct sunlight because it can burn the leaves. So do put them in the morning sun, but do remember to move them out of the sun before it comes too strong. And then throughout the day, you can keep them on a window ledge in a very light position. But don't put them too close to any strong heat source like a radiator or a heater or a log burner, because that will not help them. And the final mistake I want to talk about with these plants is people often think that when the flowers have gone, this plant has no more value, so they throw it away. And in fact, because these are so readily available and actually so inexpensive, people now have started to see these as a slightly disposable commodity. So when the blossoms do eventually die back, they think to themselves, well, okay, it's gone now, we'll throw it away. Well, that's such a waste really, because this plant can live for decades, and it can flower time after time after time, and it can flower just as well as it did when you first bought it, like this. And there's several techniques you can use to get it to flower. The first one is to cut it down to just above a bud. It's important to use a bud that's never had a flower on it, because you won't get it to flower again where it's already flowered. So go down the stem to where there's a bud that didn't have a flower and just trim it above that, and that should trigger it to produce a new flowering spur up here. But that's one method. That's not the ideal method, because that method will mean that the new flowering spur will not be as strong as this one. Ideally, cut it right back down to the base like that was there, right down to the base, and then it will provide a new flowering spur here. If you cut below the lowest bud, you'll end up with a new one coming out within a few weeks. Now, after that's died back, the plant will need to recharge its batteries. So when it's lost all its flowers and you've pruned it back down to here, it needs a little bit of extra light and a little bit of extra feed. So there we go. 5 big mistakes that people often make when they're looking after Phalaenopsis, the moth orchid. Hope you found that useful and informative. Good luck with yours, and if you've got any additional comments, please do drop them in the description box and the comments box below this video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.